Everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the state of money flowing into AI through the first half of the year. The question is the money's pouring in, but where are the exits? But first, if like me, you are all in on AI, smash that like button and smash that subscribe button. So, on the one hand, we have an unstoppable flood of money that's pouring into AI startups. Billions upon billions has been raised in just the last 6 months alone. But on the other hand, when it comes to those actual returns, those big juicy exits that pay back the early backers, that story seems to be a whole lot quieter. And this isn't just a curiosity, it's a paradox. One we need to understand because when you follow the money, you also follow the future of AI. So our mission today is clear. We're going to dig into that disconnect, why the cash is pouring in faster than ever, while the exits are slower and sometimes non-existent. So the story comes from some great reporting over at CNBC, specifically their piece titled AI Investment Surges, but Exits Lags, and it draws on a lot of data from PitchBook and insights from their senior analyst. So let's start with the scale of money flowing in. And yes, it is jaw dropping. In just the first 6 months of this year, US based AI startups raised 104.3 billion. To put that in perspective, that's nearly the same amount raised in all of 2024. So we've already hit that full year mark halfway through the year. And here's the telling stat: nearly two-thirds of all venture funding in the US this last year has gone to AI. That's up from 49% last year. So money is chasing vision, but the vision doesn't seem to be returning money yet. And a lot of that money is going to a very small number of mega deals. OpenAI led the charge with a $40 billion round in March, driven by SoftBank. Meta poured around 14.3 billion into Scale AI, and they brought over its CEO Alexander Wang in what looked more like a strategic acquisition than a pure investment. Anthropic had raised 3.5 billion, and Safe Superintelligence pulled in 2 billion right from the get-go. So yes, the money is flowing in like a busted hydrant in a hot, steamy New York City summer. But let's look at the flip side on exits. During that same period, there were 281 VC backed exit. That sounds okay until you hear the total value was 36 billion. That's less than a third of what was raised. The fuel is abundant, but the fire is small. So why the gap? According to PitchBook, the dominant exit trend is frequent but lower value acquisitions, not the blockbuster IPOs. So these are smaller AI companies getting quietly bought by larger firms in what they're calling bolt-on acquisitions. So here's how that works. Big company X buys small startup Y, not just for the tech, but to make X look more innovative, especially ahead of its own IPO or sale. It's about narrative building, not just capacity expansion. And these bolt-ons aren't about independence, they're about absorption. That leads us to startups are being built to be bought, not to break new ground. A few examples could be Evolution IQ, which helps insurance claims, bought for 700 million. Slide Insurance uses AI for homeowners insurance. It IPO'd at 2.3 billion. Decent outcomes, but not the kind of wins you'd expect after 104 billion of VC enthusiasm. And yet some exceptions do exist. Take CoreWave, they went public and the stock exploded, up 340%. Company is now worth a little more than $63 billion, and it appears to be a massive outlier though. So application focused AI startups, those building the tools for specific business use cases, are more frequent, but they do tend to have smaller deal sizes. They're easier to plug into existing workflows and easier to acquire. But infrastructure, the backbone stuff, like the stuff that CoreWeave does, that can scale dramatically and dominate whole layers of the AI stack. So if AI is booming, why are the exits still lagging? Well, part of that comes down to liquidity conditions and interest rates. The market is simply more favorable to strategic acquisitions than to speculative IPOs right now. That means the value is being captured differently. And here comes one more thing: the goal is no longer to go public, but to go useful. And that seems to matter because the financial patterns shape which companies scale, which tools get built, and how AI actually ends up in your daily life. So, if we see more IPOs, if macro conditions improve, that expectation is clear. The bolt on acquisition heavy model doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. So, what does that mean for you, my dear listener? Well, if you're building an AI, you might be aiming for the stars, but selling to a satellite could be your most likely path. And if you're just watching AI from the sidelines, remember the money shapes the market, but exits shape the future. So thanks for listening. If you found this episode insightful, share it with a friend or colleague. Continue to keep an eye on the way AI is changing everything right now. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Until next time.